Hello everyone and welcome back to the Belgian Beer Brothers channel. Cedric here in Antwerp with a brand new brew review for you guys. And today I dove into my Spanish reserve again. I dug up an Ambar Export by Zaragozana in Zaragoza in Spain. Now we've already had the Ambar Especial in brew review 186 last summer, so it's about time that we revisit this brewery. Right off the bat, the Ambar Export is a rather special one when it comes to categorizing. They describe it as an amber red lager, but also as a cerveza tostada or a toasted beer. The color and aroma, of course, come from the malts, and these are pretty special in this beer as well. They call it tres maltas or three malts, and that in itself is not that special. I mean, I can name you a dozen beers by heart that use 3 or even more malts, but what's special here is which malts are used. The Ambar Export grain bill starts off with what is called green malt, meaning malt that was just germinated but not dried or kilned. This saves a bunch of water and energy. But of course this also leaves us with a malt with a very high moisture content that lumps together, sticks to the milling rollers and such. On the other hand, mashing is a bit easier as long as we take the higher moisture content into account. Now surely there's more to it than this, but I don't want to turn this video into a 6-hour brewing course. So lastly, there's a different range of flavors to green malts. Since roasty, toasty, nutty and so on flavors come from kilning the malts, green malts don't have that. Instead, green malts provide more vegetal tastes like cucumber, melon and freshly cut grass. So yeah, this should be very interesting. The second malt that they use is a long roasted one to compensate for the green malt and add color and body to the mix. And lastly, there's a malt called Schlaffe, named after the first brewmaster of La Zaragozana, and that is used to structure its firmness and provide a great aftertaste in their words. In addition, rice is also used, and I didn't find any more info about Schlaffe. The Ambar Export also calls for double the fermentation time of a standard lager. On one side because of the peculiar grain bill, but on the other side also because they ferment up to 7% ABV instead of a standard 4.5, 5.5. And since they start at 70 degree Play-Doh, the Ambar Export ends up with only 3 degrees of leftover sugar, suggesting this might be a relatively dry beer, so I'm very excited to taste this. After all this talk about grains and malts, I wish I could tell you guys more about the hops used in this beer. But unfortunately, La Zaragozana does not publish anything about that, and I couldn't find any info on other channels either. So all that's left for me to tell you guys is that they've earned a bunch of awards in the last decade. So yeah, let's see what all the fuss is about and try it for ourselves. I could go on about this can as well, but I don't have that much to say. It is so classic. The dark blue with the gold, it's a color scheme that we've seen 1,000 times before. Of course, they have their emblem, La Zaragozana, since 1900, so they'll be celebrating their 125th anniversary next year. A lion, well, we see that very often as well. And apart from that, we also have some awards that they've won. And Cerveza Tostada Tres Maltas Doble Fermentación, Cerveceros Independientes. Wow, my Spanish is really going backwards. So, Cerveza Tostada is toasted beer, Tres Maltas, 3 malts, Doble Fermentación is double fermentation, even though it's not really a double fermentation, it's just double the amount of time. And Cerveceros Independientes, independent brewers. And this we already knew, 7%. Rice, hops, barley. Okay, let's see what this is all about. Beautiful color. I really have to work to get a head of foam on there, but nonetheless I still have it. This is a beautiful amber beer. Now they describe it on their website as amber red, but I would say this is a very standard amber beer, a nice amber gold even. Quite some bubbles, large bubbles as well, and nice actually yellowish off-white foam, which is absolutely common in this type of beer, but it will dissipate quite quickly because the foam is also made up of large bubbles, but nonetheless looking very, very good. I'm getting a slightly sweet and sour scent. Tiny hints of caramel, maybe a bit of, well, of course there's some toastiness, some roastiness, but tiny hints of caramel, but also a slight acidity, a slight sourness, a bit of citrus actually. But still a lot of toast and slightly nutty. Okay, let's have a taste. Cheers. Ooh, very interesting. First off, it might not look like it, but it is quite heavily carbonated in a pleasant way. Very first thing that we taste is a lot of roasty and toasty flavors, slightly nutty as well. I'd say chestnuts even, and that is all straight up right in your face. It's like hitting a brick wall of toastiness. But very, very nice. Also, as expected, quite dry. There is some sweetness in there, but I would say it's an aromatic sweetness and not a sugary sweetness, if that makes sense to you guys. But it is very dry. It really rolls off the tongue right into the back of the throat. It tingles on the entirety of the tongue, so it really touches all the flavor centers. There's also a slight, I don't want to say acidity, but it is very slightly astringent, and it really tickles the side of the tongue and the weak tissue in the back of the throat as well. But that is probably from the hops and because it's so dry as well. I also get some slightly vegetal tastes, which I did not really expect because of course I've read the theory about green malts, but I thought that those would be pushed out by the rest of the grain bill, but nonetheless they are there. Now I'm not tasting any melon or anything, but yeah, a slight bit of freshly cut grass, for example, a slight bit of citrus as well, which is related. And as it warms up, I get a bit more caramel in the scent. But this has a very, very pleasant flavor profile. And also in the aftertaste, it is quite dry, it is quite bitter, it is very, very pleasant. It is toasty and roasty, but not coffee. It is not an exaggeration. Again, very well balanced, and I do understand why they went home with so many awards over the last decade. I counted 7 or 8 awards, and there will probably be more, but those are the prestigious ones. So yeah, very, very nice. I am actually impressed. I didn't expect much of this beer. I don't know why, probably because it's a pretty generic can. I also have no idea why the lion is standing in a big O, because there's no O in Ambar, and Export, well, O would be the weird choice. But nonetheless, but I really, really like this beer. This is a very pleasant surprise. This is a nice discovery for me. It is very thirst quenching, even though I do crave more. So that is a nice brew all in itself. So how should I score this? I think I'm even gonna give this a 3.75. Also, it is quite dangerous because I just realized that this is still a 7% ABV, but it tastes like a 5 or a 5.5. So one might be in for a surprise after a night of these. And as I often say with these Spanish beers, I can absolutely imagine myself on a hot summer's terrace in Zaragoza, for example, or anywhere in the south, enjoying one of these, watching the beach, for example. So yeah, very, very nice. If you guys come across one, pick one up and taste for yourself. That all being said, thank you guys so much for staying with me and for watching again. If you guys like this video, let me know down in the comments or hit that thumbs up. If you want to see more, subscribe and hit the bell icon. You will get notified whenever I upload something. I did see that over 65% of you guys watching are not subscribed. So yeah, if you want to see more, do so. And if you have any ideas or suggestions or questions, again, leave them down in the comments. If you want to contact me, in the description I have made something available. If you want to visit the brewery that I work at, again, link in the description. We also organize beer festivals and stuff, so come over at will. Yeah, that all being said, I'll see you guys again tomorrow with another Belgian beer. So, cheers you guys.